So what are the features of TSQL? One is TSQL improves performance. Okay. So TSQL improves performance compared to SQL. Okay. So TSQL improves performance compared to SQL. How? How it improves the performance? So let's say once again, for example, suppose user using SQL language and communicating with SQL server. So he's using SQL language. But if you use SQL language, at a time, how many commands you submit to SQL server? At a time, how many commands you send to SQL server? You send only one command. You want to insert data, you submit insert command. You want to update the data, you submit update command. You want to delete the data, you submit the delete command to SQL server. So at a time, you can send only one command to SQL server. But if you use TSQL, suppose I am using TSQL. If I use TSQL, what I can do, I can group these commands into one block. I can group these commands into one block. That insert, update, delete commands. I can group these commands into one block and you submit that block to SQL server. SQL server execute this program. You understood? So what are the main differences? In SQL, you can send only one command. At a time, you can send only one command to SQL server. But in TSQL, we can group these commands into one program. We submit that program to SQL server. So what is the difference? In SQL, you send queries, but in TSQL, you send programs. What is the program? The program means group of SQL queries. What the TSQL program is, group of SQL queries. We can group that queries into one block and send that block to SQL server. So this is the major difference between SQL and TSQL. So how it improves the performance? In TSQL, we can group SQL commands into one block and submit that block to SQL server. So in TSQL, number of requests and response between user and SQL server are reduced. Okay, you understood this then? So we don't need to send one by one command. We can group the commands into one block, submit that block to SQL server. So what is the advantage? So the request and response between user and SQL server are reduced, performance is improved. Okay, then so TSQL improves performance compared to SQL. Next, TSQL supports what? Conditional statements. Okay, you know conditional statements. What are the conditional statements? If else. If you go to programming languages, in programming languages, they use some conditional statements like if else. So then TSQL supports conditional statements. What are the advantage if it supports conditional statements? So we can execute SQL queries based on the condition. Means if condition true, we can execute update. If condition false, we can execute delete. If condition true, we can execute update. If condition false, we can execute delete. If condition true, we can execute commit. If condition false, we can execute rollback. So that is possible in TSQL, but whereas not possible in SQL. So TSQL supports conditional statements like if else. Okay, conditional statements like if else. Then, so in TSQL, so in TSQL, we can execute SQL commands based on conditions. Okay, then third one. TSQL supports what? Loops. Supports loops. See, what are loops? Loops are used to execute the statements repeatedly multiple times. Okay, so loops are used to execute the statements repeatedly multiple times. Okay, suppose for example, so you know loops? Huh? Okay. Okay. So then TSQL supports loops like while loop. For example, while loop. See, what for loops are used? Loops are used to execute the statements repeatedly multiple times. Okay. Loops are used to execute the statements repeatedly multiple times. Then suppose, for example, so there is an update command. There is update command. I want to execute this update command 60 times. My table contains 60 rows. I want to execute this update command 60 times. Then what you can do? You take a what? Loop. You take a loop. So here you write condition. Take a loop. Begin. So update, next one, end. While condition begin, update, end. So execute this loop 60 times. If this loop is executed 60 times, update command is also executed 60 times. You take a loop, inside the loop, write this update command. So execute this loop 60 times. This update is also executed 60 times. Then, so that is what loops. Okay, then. So, and TSQL supports loops like while. Okay, so next. In TSQL, with the help of loops, we can execute SQL commands repeatedly multiple times. Okay, next fourth. Next one. And TSQL supports error handling. Okay. Yeah. So what is error handling? Okay. So suppose if you take, for example, once again. Then. So, like what this error handling is? Now, suppose, for example, I declare a variable x, then I can set x equals to 1000. Sorry, create table what ABC A 10A int. So create the table. Table is created. I'm inserting the data into the table, ABC values 1000. Okay, when I'm inserting the values, then what is this command gives error? Why? Because this field is declared as 10 int. But the 10 int range is 0 to 255. So 10 int accepts only the values between 0 to 255, but given value is 1000. So this is out of range. So that's why it is giving arithmetic overflow. Error for data type 10 int. So what is this statement? The statement is causing error. When the statement causes error, SQL server is showing the message. So this insert statement is causing the error. SQL server is showing the message. But I don't want to show this message. I want to replace this message with my own simple and user-friendly message. So this is the message generated by SQL server. So this message is somewhat complex. I want to replace this message with my own simple and user-friendly message. Then what you need to do is you need to handle this error. Handle this error and display your own message. Okay. So that is what that is called. That is called error handling. You understood? So what is the purpose of error handling? Okay. So that is not possible in SQL, but that is possible in TSQL. In SQL, we cannot show our own messages, but in TSQL, we can display our own messages. Understood? In SQL, if any statement causes error, we can't display our own message. But in TSQL, we can display our own message. That is called error handling. So TSQL supports error handling. Right. So in TSQL, if any statement, otherwise first, like TSQL supports error handling. That is in TSQL, if any statement causes error, then we can handle that error and we can replace system generated message with our own simple and user-friendly message. Okay, then. So supports error handling in TSQL. If any statement causes error, we can handle that error. We can replace system generated message with our own simple and user-friendly message. Next. And TSQL supports reusable. That means TSQL programs can be reused. TSQL programs can be reused. You write the TSQL program. You can call the TSQL programs from different applications. You write the TSQL program. You can call it from .NET. You can call it from Java. You can call it from Python application. So you can call these TSQL programs from different applications. Okay. So what is that is called reusable. TSQL programs can be reused. Okay. Then next. TSQL programs can be. So suppose, for example, see, this is database. This database is managed by SQL Server. Okay, so this is the database, and this database is managed by SQL Server. And what are these? These are all applications connected to SQL Server. Like you take banking. So this is ATM application, net banking application, mobile application. All these applications are connected to database. So this is ATM, this is net banking, this is mobile application. All these applications are connected to SQL Server. What is my requirement is, in all these applications, I want to provide a service to the customer, that is money transfer service. In all these applications, I want to provide a service to the customer, that is money transfer. Then what you have to do? You have to write the code here, money transfer program. You have to write the code here, you have to write the code. In all these applications, you have to write the code. Instead of writing that code in all these applications, you write a TSQL program, then it is stored in database. You write a TSQL program for money transfer, then it is stored in database. So once it is stored in database, and the applications which are connected to database can call this program. So ATM application can call this. Okay, no? So ATM applications can call this then. So this ATM application can call this, net banking application can call this, mobile application can call this. So all these applications can call this. Okay, so this